Buenos dias, James, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I am excited to introduce James England, CEO at BlueSky Experiences Ltd. Welcome, James.
Good afternoon, Javier. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise. Now, well, James, today we have a Blue Sky. You provide the experience.
Yeah, and occasionally some blue sky.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, James, you are in a very exciting industry, in my opinion, team building and personal development.
Yeah.
It sounds like fun. So, my first question is, when you were at school, when you were a child, what were your dreams about? Do you always want to become an entrepreneur, to run and own a business, or how did you end up here?
Well, when I was at school, I also grew up on a farm. I'm the fourth generation on the farm here at Backleton, just outside Perth. And so I kind of knew I was going to be going into business, but it was farm orientated, land orientated in rural Scotland. And I think farming is a fantastic foundation for business, for any business person, if they, if they've got the opportunity. It gave me a fantastic foundation because I learned how to manage a business at a very early age. You needed to be involved in a bit of everything. I think farmers are entrepreneurial in that, they have to be.
Brilliant. So you got the hands-on experience at an early age. Is that your dad involved you? Come on, James, do this, do that, do the other.
Well, actually, it was my mother. so, yeah, my mum and I and my father, but the farm actually was handed down from my mother. We were in business together, or are in business together, and I just well, because of that, I was able to when I came back from agricultural college, I was able to sort of get right into it, and even whilst I was at school and when I was going through further education, I was still very involved in supporting my mum run the farm, who basically fell out to the farm, when she wasn't really expecting it.
Brilliant. So then you've how long have you been running the business in the team building?
Well, BlueSky Experiences started as a farm diversification back in 2001. And it wasn't actually the first diversification that I'd started on the farm, but it had its foundations in what I had learned in business, diversifying the farm prior to starting BlueSky Experiences. And really haven't looked back since. So absolutely, thoroughly enjoy running BlueSky, and we still run the farm, but run the farm in a very different way that allows me to spend 99% of my time running BlueSky Experiences.
So you mentioned about running the business, the farming business, as a youngster, and then setting up your own business. What transferable skills do you get in farming that you could apply in your current business?
Well, it's more an awful lot with regards to hard work. I think that's
Discipline.
the key transferable. Just understanding what a day's work is all about, and
Yes.
being in a shift, and so that work ethic, that would be a key aspect of the way I run my life, really. That I learned from a very early age. The transferable skills from that to running BlueSky, probably a little more limited. But the diversification, the reason that one of the main reasons that my wife and I, decided to start BlueSky Experiences in 2001 was because that we were looking to find another revenue source because agricultural returns weren't great. We were starting a family, and we just needed to. We wanted to use the asset in a completely different way. We're very lucky as landowners and farmers to. Many of us are actually own the land, so we have an asset, but we're cash poor, shall we say, asset rich and
Yes.
cash poor. So we when I came back to running the farm in sort of the late 80s, I'd also had an experience of I've been all my formative through my teens and my 20s. I had ridden horses at the top level at 3-day eventing and British eventing. And I actually started a cross-country training ground and was teaching people how to ride horses and running events on the least productive piece of land on the farm. And that then allowed me to understand that, you know, what was possible with dealing directly with the general public. So with on the agricultural side, I was only you know, working with 2 or 3 buyers of our produce, and they were merchants, so we weren't dealing with direct to the general public. You know, many farmers have, you know, gone into farm shops to allow them to do that. For example, I decided that we were going to build this cross country training ground, and then when I take that to such a level, I then sort of looked at, right, how could we grow the opportunity we've got with dealing with the general public? So one of the key things that we had to decide before we started BlueSky was what do we enjoy doing? What do Susie and I really enjoy doing? And what do we know that we're good at? And how could we leverage that along with the asset of having land and so on and so forth? So we also knew that we could utilize the poorest land on the farm, like woodland, at that time, for in a completely different way, or the less productive land in a different way. So we knew that we really enjoyed working with people. So we thought, well, what can we do this along those lines? And we knew that we could do events, and we kind of, because we're in an area that doesn't have a lot of passing trade, we decided that we wanted to get into sort of running activities, but we didn't want to be doing become an activity centre, as it were. So we had to do something that was completely different from an activity centre. And that sort of then led us down the route of doing lots of heaps and heaps of research. And we decided that we wanted to set up a corporate facing team building and leadership company, because we were good at dealing with people, we knew we could run events, and we sort of fell into that.
Brilliant. 2 things that come to mind. But by the way, I've got clients that I take them on an annual 2-day offsite once a year. And part of it is obviously team building and bonding. Okay. So maybe if we do that around the area where you are, that could be an interesting, you know, factor that in, an activity in the, yeah, interesting.
Certainly good. We'd be delighted to look after them.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you talked about, so basically you say, well, we had a piece of land, we didn't know of not much use, we like people, blah, 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 and you put a package together, really. And, you know, so you spotted an opportunity there to leverage, you know, extra income, right? Yeah. And then you mentioned about, well, we like people, this. So in the book that I sent you, Traction, it talks about the core focus. You know, the core focus of a business is the things that you enjoy doing and you are great at.
Yeah.
You know, when you, and that's why, you know, if you are laser focused on that, boom, you just, so it seems like you got your sweet spot there.
Yeah, I think that was really important when we started BlueSky, because I mean it was one of the reasons that we actually said, well, we don't really know whether if we would enjoy doing you know, being a catering company or starting up a farm shop, because we had no experience in that. But I did have experience of training people how to ride horses. I did have experiences of running events. I used to be a technical delegate for British eventing, so I knew I enjoyed running events, and I knew that I was good at it actually. So it was just a case of well, who else would we run events for?
Yeah.
And also, Susie and I knew that we enjoyed being hospitable. We enjoyed, having people around, and we loved working with people. So it was a case of leveraging all these sort of three things that we love doing, and I think that's really why BlueSky has sort of stood the test of time. Why we're still here in 2025 with having experienced a number of fairly severe shocks and crises, shall we say, with a financial crisis and COVID, just to name two.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've gone through COVID. Your business is a people business. Tell us about when COVID happened. What do you do?
Right. Well, when COVID happened, our business model became, illegal. We weren't allowed to bring people together. Our business model was all about building teams, providing away days, providing leadership programs, and all of these, 100% of them at that particular point in time, were all in person, face to face. So almost overnight, I had to, and the team here at BlueSky had to learn brand new skills. And some facilitators and event companies had already started doing a small amount of virtual training and virtual events, but it was a tiny proportion. So the bulk of what we actually did through COVID and coming out of COVID was all virtual delivery, especially our psychometric profiling with insights discovery, which lends itself very, very well to being a virtual delivery using Teams and Zoom and so on, like we're doing today. That's one of the things that I did through COVID. And that was very, very successful. And we're still using a lot of virtual delivery. The other thing that I tend to have done in crises such as COVID is diversified further. So not only did we diversify into virtual delivery and virtual events, we also diversified further on the farm, because we also have a wedding business that takes place on the farm called Backleton Barn. But at that point, we holiday cottages that were tied up with the wedding business, but we weren't really running them as a holiday business per se. So through COVID, we actually diversified that business and started farm holidays and a stronger force on the agri-tourism piece. Had the opportunity when the holiday cottages weren't busy to completely revamp them and put hot tubs in and build some yurts. So actually next month, we've actually got corporate clients coming for a corporate retreat. They're staying for 2 nights and they're on a 2-day training course here at BlueSky. So that has allowed us to diversify the offering and also offer corporate retreats as well.
Yes. Okay. Now, running a business, if you look back, what is the biggest challenge you've had to face running a business?
Well, there's so many. There's so
one of the biggest, keeps you up at night.
At this particular moment in time, my biggest challenge is succession, and thinking about how I'm going to keep adding value to the BlueSky Experiences business, so that I can either pass it on to one of my 4 girls, or sell it. So that's a focus, and obviously, having the asset of the agricultural land, it's about how I'm going to deal with that as well. So the whole piece around succession planning, whether that's internal to my management team or external to my children, which are separate from the business, that's a particular challenge at the minute.
Okay. Running the business as you do now, what is the thing that you like the most and the thing that you hate the most?
Well, there's a number of things that I really enjoy, and one is actually delivering events, especially working with senior leadership teams and facilitating programs with them. I've sort of stood back from that a fair bit coming out of COVID, to help sort of to work more on the business rather than in the business. But actually, over the last sort of 6 months to a year, I've actually stepped back into facilitating for one reason or another, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't think I will ever stop doing that. And so I thoroughly enjoy doing the facilitation and the delivery of the events. The other thing that I enjoy doing is innovating new ideas, and coming up with, we've always got to keep reinventing ourselves as corporate, team building and leadership providers. There's always a new theme and a new fad that comes on the TV. So once upon a time it was The Apprentice, and it's still going. Then it was I'm a Celebrity. Then it was Lost. Then it's Dragon's Den. So and now it's Traitors. So everybody wants to sort of link, or is keen to link new themes that come into society, and link them into corporate events. Traitors is a difficult one because it's not really team building.
Yes.
It's a bit divisive, Traitors. So we're struggling with we're coming up with a new Traitors style type event at the minute. But I think we've landed on a theme that's going to work really well. The other sort of game that we're building at the minute is it's going to be called Team Energy, and it's working on all the new forms of the different ways of creating energy for society, and teams will be able to invest in countries and different forms of generating energy, and trade between each other. So that's something that's sort of being innovated at the minute.
I've noticed on your website that you use the profiling. I can't remember which one it was. You have the disc profile and various others, the Kolbe and so on.
So we use insights discovery.
Okay. How does it help? I guess everybody taking a part in the activities, they will be profiled according to that. Do you profile everybody taking, or that's an optional thing you do?
Well, Javi, the first thing we do when we get an inquiry is we need to understand exactly what it is that the client needs.
Yes.
And often we'll get an inquiry, so we'd like to come on a team building day, and there's 15 of us, say. But actually, when you phone and you sort of have some sort of inquiry with the conversation with the client, you start to discover that, well, actually this is a really new team, and they want to learn a little bit more about how to be more effective as a team. And at that point, we might then be suggesting, well, it would be a sensible idea to do some psychometric profiling with the team using insights, as well as some experiential or team building activities to bring the language to life. So where we've got a unique value proposition is actually the combination of doing the insights discovery, so people are learning about themselves and learning about their colleagues, and how we're all different, obviously, and then we then do some team building tasks, or you could call them business mirrors, where individuals sort of go straight into type. When you're working on an activity you've never done before, your people just go straight into type, and whatever they have learned in the morning, is played out, or played out in the afternoon doing the activities, or if we're doing insights on day one and we're doing team development with experiential activities in day two,
Yes.
they start to actually really appreciate the differences in the team and how to leverage that diversity in the team, rather than it potentially cause misunderstanding. So we do an awful lot of insights, team development programs, but supplement them with these experiential tasks. It's like 1 + 1 = 3, to be perfectly honest, because you get considerable out of it, considerable amount of value out of it.
So not logical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Last time we spoke, I asked you the question, is there a book you've read that had an impact in your life or you wanted to share with the audience?
Oh, well, a book that I have read very, very recently and is called The Secret of Mental Health, an operating manual, written by a chap called George Pransky. And this book lays out really, really well and articulately the 3 principles, which was sort of introduced by a chap called Sydney Banks. And I was actually introduced to the 3 principles about 2 years ago. And it has had a profound effect on the way that I deal with pressure, deal with making difficult decisions. So it's one that I've actually recommended to many of my friends and business colleagues since reading it. It's a relatively new book, and I've thoroughly enjoyed reading it.
I'm going to look it up. Can you give us the gist of it? When we spoke, you talked about mind, thought, and consciousness, I think.
That's correct.
Yes.
So the 3 principles which are laid out in this book.
Yeah, just giving the gist for people watching this. Okay, that's a book I want to read,
Yeah, so it introduces the 3 principles, which are the mind. So the mind is not your brain, your mind, not your intellectual self. Your mind is like a universal mind, and it comes in, some people might call it the soul. For me, it comes from my chest, and it comes up, and then the mind then will create a thought, and that thought goes, you have a cadence of thought for like one a second, and these thoughts they just come and go, and every now and again you'll jump on with a thought, and you'll make it conscious, and then you experience, then you have a feeling, and you have an experience, and you run with that thought, and that's really how Sydney Banks explained our human experience, or our psychological experience, and it's so straightforward and simple, and that's what I like about it. So really, the way you would apply that into making business decisions, for example, would be that we are hardwired as human beings when we're in business to be busy and to just keep operating on a task, and we're not. So if you even think about the experiential learning cycle of plan, do, review, we're all very good at doing, and we're pretty good at planning, but we're generally not very good at reviewing. But so and often when I ask teams that I'm working with, which one of those 3 are you least good at, and they nearly always people say review, because you're always banging on with the next project. So if you then wanted to apply think, plan, do, review, which is the full code cycle, the thinking bit gets even less airtime in business with business leaders, because you don't look productive when you're thinking. And so that's if you go back to the 3 principles and you apply that, your mind is creating these thoughts, and then the thought, you either decide to run with that thought and through consciousness. If you spend more time to just be at peace and go out for a walk or ride a bike, for example, your thoughts they just come to you as if out of the blue. So when I was going through COVID, that was a challenge. But in particular, I remember I went through the financial crisis, which was equally as challenging as COVID to me as a business leader, which was corporate facing. I would go out on my bike, and I wouldn't even be thinking about the challenges I was facing. And when I came back, I would have the idea, or
Same here.
just amazing. And I do link this to the three principles now that I understand the three principles. So when I've got a really challenging decision to make, I won't make a decision or reply to an email, for example, after business hours, or I'll leave it and I'll sleep on it. And generally, it'll have arrived. The right thing will have arrived by the morning. Or I'll go out for a walk.
Yes.
And people talk about mindfulness, but for
Yeah.
me, this is it. You don't need to be doing yoga. You can just
Yes.
go for a walk and just make sure that your mind is clear.
Yes.
And that's the other thing about experiential activities. They create moments of clarity because you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're in that moment, you're working with your team on a task. And that's the clarity that you need to make difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, myself, sometimes when I wake up, I naturally wake up early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 4:30. And that's me. I stay in bed a little bit, but the amount of times that I get ideas when I'm in bed awake, and then I go for a run, for a 5 o'clock morning run. And again, the flow of ideas is very interesting to reflect on that. Is amazing that you get answers to questions, solutions that were you couldn't find, or when you're not thinking about it,
yeah.
it just comes to you.
So I think that it's another way of putting it would be you won't make good decisions if you have a busy mind. Whoever said that the leaders with the busiest minds were the ones that made the best decisions?
Yes, that's why I hear often, the term "take a clarity break."
Yeah.
And I think what you provide as a business is part of it. Going offsite, boom, that's also a clarity break, clear the mind. Come back. Brilliant. Well, that's excellent. So, I hope I don't put you on the spot with this question. If you could spend a day in the life of, who would you choose, either living or from the past, some historical figure? Is there somebody you would?
I wasn't expecting that question.
Yes.
Oh.
We can skip it. Okay.
Yeah. No. Well.
Doesn't have to be a VIP.
Be interesting. It would be. I mean, Elon Musk, for example, we talked about before.
Yes.
Before the call. He's a divisive figure, but I mean, his work ethic, his innovation, and his clarity of purpose are inspirational. I would think that clarity of purpose is so aspirational to try and put people on Mars. But I do believe having a purpose like that in business is absolutely key for an effective team and an effective business. Whether it gets people on Mars is another matter, but it certainly gives his teams and his troops a direction.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe he could bring his team to BlueSky Experiences, and do some bonding and chill out.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, final question to wrap up. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh, I suppose just keep going with what you love, really. don't be frightened of going with your gut. It's generally right. So that's I think you've really got to enjoy what you do, and I think that's I would say before I started my business with BlueSky Experiences and the wedding business that we have here and the holiday business, that it's all these have all been opportunities that have come out of the initial diversification of I suppose starting a cross-country training course and then BlueSky. And they've all been shaped from that very piece of well, I personally love working with people. And before when I was farming, I would call myself when I was purely just farming, I would say that I was a frustrated farmer, because I wasn't sure I wasn't getting full job satisfaction. And it was when I actually did insights that I began to understand myself a lot deeper, and understood that my job satisfaction now is 100-fold what it was when I was just farming. Because I'm working with people and I'm doing what I love doing.
Yes.
I think as you go through life, you do gravitate to
Yes.
jobs or a career that actually fits with your personal style.
Yes. And that is a journey in itself, finding what you love doing,
Yeah.
And I guess, if you are true to yourself, it's easier to find.
Yeah.
Because many times one lives a life, what people expect of you, what's the right thing to do, and so on. So yes, being yourself, it helps to find what you love doing. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, James, on that very note, it's been a pleasure having you on board on the Entrepreneur Next Door, part of the Business Spotlight series, and for sharing your experience and wisdom with us today. Thank you so much.
Javier, thank you.